Hey guys, here we are with another episode of Veterans in Victory podcast. I am Stephen Underwood, the founder and CEO of Veterans in Victory Incorporated, a nonprofit charitable organization seeking to not only raise awareness for veterans suffering from PTSD, homelessness, and substance abuse, but also to facilitate their recovery and treatment in the best way that we can, and that is by connecting them with the right people and resources that are able to help. And so just wanted to continue our podcast series that we're going to be doing. And of course, as I've said in the previous episodes, we're going to talk about anything and everything just because we want to be able to cover a whole broad spectrum of topics. And so if you're wondering, why I seem to always be in a tank top, well, for one, it's like 98 degrees outside, and for two, it's the weekend, and so I am trying to record as many of these as I can and schedule them out to be released so that we can have some sort of consistency and you guys can get some topics, download your podcast, listen throughout the week, and have something on a regular basis. And so that's what we want to do. We want to try to stay ahead of the ball game, and I've had several friends that have given me some good advice on making sure that we record some out and have a consistent content releasing. And so that's just what we're trying to do. So if that is a question that you had, why is he always in the tank top? Well, that's why. I'm trying to record several at a time. But to be honest with you, as hot as it is, and I know it's been a holiday week with Independence Day, July 4th, and all of that, but quick little rant for some of you guys that may or may not know, but I wanted to give you a lesson in interstate etiquette. Just to be quite clear, the far left lane is for passing, the middle lane is for cruising, and the far right lane is for exiting. So if you want to set your cruise control, which I'm all for, I'm a big proponent of cruise control. You want to set that cruise control, make sure that you do it at a halfway decent speed and get over into the middle lane when somebody wants to go faster than you. It's not up to you to be some hero of the interstate and try to slow down traffic because you think they're going too fast. That's what the police are for. So if somebody's trying to pass you, move over to the middle lane. If you're exiting, move over to the far right lane. And by the way, there's this little lever on typically the left side of your steering wheel, and you can move it up to turn right and down to turn left. It's called a signal, and it doesn't take any effort, minimal physical ability to be able to move that lever a half inch either direction. So in driver's education that they used to teach in school up until the mid-90s, they would teach you how to use that lever to allow other vehicles to know which direction you plan to go. And so I would suggest that we get back to using that so that there's no confusion when we're on the interstate. If I want to set my cruise control to 80 and take that risk of being pulled over, then that is my prerogative. You, on the other hand, have the prerogative to move over and not ride the fast lane doing 70 miles an hour. I don't care that it's the posted speed limit. That's the passing lane. So the middle lane, cruising, left lane, passing, far right, exiting. Now that we've got that out of the way, I think we can move forward. So I'm not quite sure what all you guys want to talk about today. I am looking forward to scheduling some guests here in the next few episodes. I know that you guys probably get tired of hearing just from me. But looking forward to trying to get my friend Kerry that I mentioned in last episode to come on and be a guest and talk about addiction recovery and his story of battling drug abuse for many years and the last 10 years of being sober and some of the struggles that he faced and still to this day faces at times. He was sharing with me one day, he said, the big struggle for me is when I was in drugs, I was in that lifestyle, I could make and lose money so quickly it didn't even matter. He said now, because I'm trying to work and make an honest living, bills sometimes are behind. It's a struggle to be able to pay for different things, and he has to be very wise with his finances. And so that was something that he didn't ever worry about when he was addicted to drugs, because he could make it and lose it as quickly as a 24-hour turnaround period. And so he just never really worried about it. But now that he's clean, obviously that's one of the things that clean people want to do. They want to try to live a fiscal responsible life. And so he works very hard. He works for a nonprofit here in Dalton. He has his own nonprofit, and he is doing an incredible job. And so I'm going to have him on the show here in the next few episodes to talk about his story and to answer some questions about drug abuse and recovery. And as I mentioned in the last episode, his nonprofit that he started is called Any Path Recovery. And his whole reasoning behind that, and he's going to go into more detail about it, but it's because whatever it takes to get you clean and off drugs, he wants to help you do that. If it is a formal counseling, if it is intervention, if it is a faith-based method, if it's a rehab center, any path that it takes to help you overcome drug addiction, that's what he wants to be a part of. And we believe that as well. We want to help in any way possible. And we don't want to limit ourselves to say that this way is right or this way is wrong. As long as we can get you clean, as long as we can get you the help that you need, we want to facilitate that for you. And so looking forward to having Carrie on and just talking about his story and how he has given his life over the last 10 years being sober to helping others see that as a reality as well. But moving on, been out quite a bit today. Made the mistake of going to Costco, and of course that's always an adventure. I think there were like 3 times where little old ladies that couldn't hardly see over the buggy, much less the steering wheel, almost ran over me. And of course my PTSD started flaring up when you have that many people in a confined space. And so just trying to navigate something like that. And that's one of those things that we don't really consider very often about other veterans. I am not one. I don't have a Iraq veteran hat that I wear or advertise, but it's always funny. Other veterans, including myself, we can spot each other a mile away. Even if we're just wearing regular plain Jane clothes, we can spot each other. If I didn't have my POWMIA tattoo showing, I can still pick out and they can pick me out. I don't know what it is. I think we all just have that look. It's like police officers. They can always spot another cop. And so, but that's one of the things that we often deal with when we're out in public, especially in a crowded place. There's a lot of background noise. There's a lot of different things going on at the same time. Those can often be triggers for people with PTSD. And your anxiety level starts to shoot up. Your awareness is on high alert. And you're just very conscientious of everything that's going around. And so oftentimes it can be very easy to be frustrated. It can be very easy to get irritable. And we have to learn how to cope with that and work with that. But one of the things that the general public doesn't always understand is there are ways that you can help in those situations. One is just simple courtesy. Say excuse me if you're trying to get by. Don't try to force your way by in an aisle that there's 3 people deep on each side, and you're just wanting to make a beeline for the counter or whatever it is. There's a common courtesy in public that I think is lost today. People are more concerned about themselves than they are just allowing somebody to get by and go. And the truth of the matter is that we're all going to get there at the same time. You're all going to be able to get in line. You're all going to be able to check out. And that extra 3 seconds isn't going to change the course of your life. So sit back and relax for a few seconds and let somebody pass. It's not that big of a deal. Say, excuse me. If you bump into someone, don't get mad at them because you ran into them. Say, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Don't be like, hey, get out of my way. Why are you just standing there? Just relax. Because you really never know what somebody else is going through. You never know the struggles that they're facing. You never know where they are mentally and what sort of environment that can be a trigger for them. And so, everybody wants others to be courteous to them, but they don't want to return that kindness. And so that's one of the things that, as a veteran, as someone who has had PTSD struggles, one that is currently being treated on a very regular basis through the Veterans Affairs Office. Simply being able to calm down, take a step back, use a little common human decency, and controlling the situation goes a long way. It's amazing to me. Every year it happens. We read about it for the last decade from overseas, and people in both South Africa and even in Argentina, they always ask us if it was true, but Black Friday shopping where people are getting shot over who's going to grab the last PlayStation 5. And we're sitting here as Americans, and people already have this preconceived notion about us that we all carry guns and have one in our pickup truck, and if you look at us the wrong way, then we're going to shoot you dead. They already think that, but we just prove it because we can't even take a step back and allow somebody else to take the PlayStation for Black Friday because we've got to be able to save $30 in taxes. Give me a break. Is it really all that important? And then for the rest of the year, we complain about our kids being in front of a screen hooked to the video games anyway, and they won't get outside. It's because we're buying them every gadget that's out there. Every year something new comes out, and we've got to go out and get the latest, greatest video game system or iPhone or whatever the case may be. Now, listen, I'm not against all of that. I think it's just like anything else. It's entertainment. And sometimes it is aggravating. Let them, especially when it's bright and sunny like it is today. Let them get outside and play and be kids. But I'm not against video games. As a matter of fact, the new college football is coming out this month, and I haven't played video games in years. But I can tell you, I'm going to buy that because I used to love playing NCAA football on PlayStation, the very first PlayStation, and PlayStation 2 when it came out. And I enjoyed it, so I'm looking forward to getting that and playing it with my sons. So I'm not against all that stuff, but I do think that there is a balance. And that's a key word when we talk about life in general is the word balance. You know, any extreme is not good. We can go to the extreme of buying everything that's out there and then being too stingy and not ever enjoying life at all. Or we can go to the extreme of I personally, there was a period of time where I went to the extreme where I was all about the gym and I was all about lifting weights, and the only thing that I ate for 3 solid months was grilled chicken and rice, and that was for every meal. And yeah, I got in really good shape physically, but mentally it messed with me in such a way that I was lethargic, I was a zombie, I didn't know who I was lost in my own mind, and my own family didn't even recognize me. And so any extreme is not a good extreme. So we have to learn that word balance. We have to learn how to understand when enough is enough, and we have to learn to understand when it's time to sit back and relax and just allow things to pass. And being able to have that in the back of our minds, being able to focus and be conscientious of that word balance is important to us being able to not only cope with stressful situations, but also to be courteous of others that may be in similar situations. When I see somebody else in public and they're obviously in duress, they're obviously high-strung over something, a simple, calm tone typically changes all of that. Because I work in outside sales, I do have to do quite a bit of problem solving and problem fixing. There's been several times where I've gone to a client's job site where they're trying to install some of our materials, and there's something wrong with it, and I go to them, and of course they're angry. They've just spent money on the materials that they want. They expect it to have a certain look to it or fit a certain way, and it's not quite working out for them. And so I go, and the first thing that I try to do is say, look, I'm here on your behalf. I want to help you solve this problem, and we're going to come up with a solution. We will find a fix to this problem. And a lot of times it's user error. A lot of times they've possibly installed it incorrectly, or the contractor installed it incorrectly. Sometimes it's our fault in delivery, in production, in various number of things, wrong measurements, the wrong materials were delivered, or whatever the case may be. And of course, we'll accept full responsibility for that. But if it's user error, we still don't want to just say, well, you did it wrong and you're going to have to live with it. No, that's not how we work with people. Nobody wants to be told, you're wrong, I'm right, and there is no other way around it. We can work together to come up with a solution that makes everybody happy and everybody win. Now, there are some times that it's just clear-cut black and white. But it doesn't mean that we don't at least give them the courtesy of trying to figure out a solution that makes everyone happy. Sometimes it's not possible, but I can tell someone that they're wrong in a certain tone, and it will change the entire dynamic of how they receive that. So if, for instance, I was in Dunlap, Tennessee not too long ago at a job site, and this gentleman was installing these panels, and they were too tight on the clips. It was a board and batten panel, and they were just too tight, and so they were starting to oil can. And because of that, I went and I showed him how there needed to be a little bit of play, just like in vinyl siding. Needed to be a little bit of play for the expansion and the temperature changes for that to not oil can. And so I was explaining to him, sir, unfortunately this is too tight, and that's why you're seeing the results that you're seeing. So we need to try to take off some of the panels, readjust, and see if that doesn't fix the problem. And of course, it was user error. But the tone in my voice, speaking to him calmly, speaking to him professionally with a courteous tone and not degrading or belittling, he said, you know what, you're right, this is my fault, and I should have paid better attention. I'm going to do exactly that. And the problem was solved. But when I got there, he was angry, saying, you guys delivered a bad product. I can't use any of this. What's going on? I expect somebody to fix this. I expect somebody to pay for this because I just shelled out all this money on this and it doesn't look the way that it's supposed to look. It's all in how we treat and respond to people. A mentor of mine has often told me, he said, we can't always control how people will treat us, but we can control how we respond. And so remembering that, a lot of times there's going to be people that will come at us at a very angry tone, very threatening at times. But if we take a step back and we put ourselves in their situation just for a second, we respond calmly and controlled, 9 times out of 10, it will change the way that they are coming at us. It will change the entire scenario, and everybody can come to a mutual beneficial understanding and compromise. And so let's just remember that, especially when we're dealing with veterans that are struggling with PTSD, we don't begin to understand all the ins and outs of what they're going through, the different triggers that they have, and what's going through their mind in certain moments. But if we can see some of those triggers happening, if we can look at a man's eyes and know he's not exactly there at that moment, there's something that's going on that's bothering him, we can see that there's a scenario or a situation that may be putting him in a bad place mentally, then the tone of our voice, the calmness of our demeanor, and the non-threatening manner in which we approach the situation can change the whole dynamic of what's going on. And so if we're in a grocery store and somebody might be standing right in our way, instead of responding, hey, you gonna stand there all day, get out of my way, we could say, oh, forgive me, I'm gonna try to squeeze by you right now, forgive me if that's an inconvenience, excuse me, something like that. Most of the time people are not going to respond to you in an ugly manner if you just speak to them with respect. Honestly, it's the same way with a lot of the guys that are dealing with substance abuse and even those that are living on the street. The thing is that they've been so mistreated by society, they already feel forgotten, they already feel like they're the lowest form of life on earth, and they don't remember what dignity is. But if we can treat people with dignity, a little bit of respect, then you'll be amazed at what someone can and will do. I posted this quote on my social media not too long ago. It was about marriage, but it said, it said, "There is no limit to what a man will do to live up to the standard in which his wife sees him." Something to that effect. And basically what it means is that when there's a woman behind a man that sees that he is unstoppable, that he's invincible, that he can absolutely do anything, that he hung the moon, there's no limit to what he'll do to try to live up to that standard. And I believe that's true of most people. When we see more in them than they see in themselves, they want to live up to that. And I said in the last episode that I didn't want this to be something where I just sit here and preach to you all the time, but one of my favorite stories in the Bible, one of my favorite accounts of the Bible, is a man named Gideon. And I identify a lot with him because when Gideon's story starts, the Israelites were being conquered by the Midianites. The Midianites had come in and basically taken all of them captive. And so when we first see Gideon's name mentioned in Judges chapter 6, we find him hiding and basically saying, you know what, everybody else can go and take care of themselves. I'm going to take care of myself, and I'm going to hide out until all of this blows over. But it's then that God comes to him and he says, hey, you're going to be the one that leads the children of Israel out of their captivity, and by your sword, you're going to defeat the Midianites. And Gideon's like, who are you talking to? I know it's not me. You see where I'm at, right? I'm over here minding my own business. I'm hiding. I'm threshing wheat by a wine press. I'm just here taking care of myself. But the scripture says there in Judges chapter 6, I think it's verse 12, it says, the Lord is with thee. And then it says this, thou mighty man of valor. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking about it. And it's like God chose to use and call Gideon a man of valor, even though he's over here hiding, worrying about taking care of himself, and he's not worried about his kinsmen or anybody else in the country. He's protecting himself and his own. Yet the scripture says, thou mighty man of valor. And this is the interesting part about it. Oftentimes, it's been true in my life, and I believe this to be true in most people's life, that not only God, but when others see us not for who we are in that moment, but who we can be, then we want to live up to that. And I'm thankful. I'm thankful that I have a support system that has looked beyond my failures. They've looked beyond my inabilities. They've looked beyond my faults. And they see me not for who I am in a weak moment, but who I can be. And it makes me want to strive and work harder to live up to who they see and who they believe that I am. And so when we are talking with veterans, whether they're dealing with PTSD, whether they're living on the street, whether they're dealing with substance abuse, when we see them not for who they are and the circumstances that they're in, but we see them as a man of dignity and character and value, then they will want to live up to that. But we have to train ourselves, and we have to readjust our way of thinking and remember, it's not always about us. And I think that that's a big problem that we see in society today. Well, that's all the time that we have for this episode. I'll be right back with you with some more content here in a little bit, and we're going to just keep plugging away and putting out some different topics for you. Thank you for joining us, and have a great day.